Nand Kishore. Uh, at the outset, let me express my sincere gratitude to Mail for remembering me for this program and inviting me to this program. And After a long, long time, when I received a mail signed by Dr. Mail, I was pleasantly surprised because he was a very good friend, a senior to me in JNU. We were residents of the same hostel, and also one more very valuable association that he was the chairperson of JNU Students Union Election Committee when I was a member, and later on I became the chairperson, and I uh, took his advice on many critical at many critical junctures. So it was a I was flooded with memories when I got this mail. Thank you so very much. And it's also a privilege to be part of a session which is being chaired by my very good friend, Dr. Nand Kishore from Manipal. And we had also spent some very good days and very good memories I share with him. So the title of my presentation is Turbulence in Indo-Pacific, the China Factor. That Indo-Pacific is the flavor of the season. Uh, Let us talk about why Indo-Pacific is important. I'll finish my presentation within the stipulated time period of 15 minutes. Uh, First of all, let me tell you that we all can make out that there is a discernible shift in the power dynamics. A dramatic restructuring of power relations, along with the intensification of geostrategic tussle, call for serious attention and analysis. And if you look at Indo-Pacific, the geo-economic and the geostrategic importance of Indo-Pacific cannot be overemphasized, as it is not only home to the biggest and fastest growing economies of the world, but also to the strongest militaries and naval capabilities. While economically it is one of the most vital of the regions, in terms of politico-military contestation, it is also the most volatile. So with the involvement of big powers like the US, China, Japan, and of late India, Indo-Pacific has emerged as the new power zone of global political system, holding the key to global security. And you all must be knowing that how almost two-thirds of uh, entire world cargo goes through the routes that is there in Indo-Pacific. So it also connects Europe with Asia, and these are very critical trade routes which connect both the continents. So in that way also, it has a very significant economic contribution to global trade. And also, if you see that why this change, why this there is a shift in the power relations. On one hand, there is relative decline in US influence as it seeks withdrawal from the major conflict zones, Trump's America First, and also from the responsibility to provide security to its friends and allies in case of any aggression. So we see a gradual decline in US involvement. On the other hand, there is a China, who is aggressively pursuing to expand its power across different regions of Asia, Africa, and Europe. And it is trying its best to establish a Sino-centric order in Asia and also emerge as the most dominant power upstaging the United States of America. So if you look at the recent incidents, China's belligerence, acts of aggression against countries like India and Vietnam, policies of expansionism, revisionism to the detriment of its neighbor, a confrontational atmosphere where conflict either between the US and China or India and China looks very, very imminent. So these recent policies and incidents suggest that the peaceful rise dictum has been shunned by Xi Jinping regime.
Netaji, can you hear us?
Any country, but now we find that Xi regime has kind of started a new kind of diplomacy to realize the so-called Chinese dream that is nothing but the Chinese euphemism for hegemony. And to achieve this, China of late has adopted coercive or offensive diplomacy against countries like India, Australia, United States, even Japan, Vietnam, that is being dubbed as wolf warrior diplomacy. And you see that India is not the only country that is at the receiving end of Chinese aggression. No. In recent months, if you see starting from March, April, in recent months, China has intensified its expansionist drive to claim territory, both land as well as maritime, against India, Vietnam, Philippines, Brunei, Taiwan, and Malaysia, Japan, Indonesia, and even Bhutan. So you see that while the world is busy fighting the pandemic, China has moved very swiftly towards consolidating its unverifiable claims in and around its neighborhood. And especially in South China Sea and East China Sea regions, China has gone for unprovoked action against countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, Japan, Indonesia, even during the peak of the pandemic. Australia has also alleged cyber attack by China. And if you see that what happened in Galwan, uh, uh, China has been also attacking Japanese post in Senkaku Island. So there is a discernible pattern if you try to analyze that all these targets are members of Quad. Some my predecessor, the previous presenter talked about Quad and counter Quad. So what I want to emphasize or drive home the point is that China's policies and actions, especially during this regime of Xi Jinping, have in a way upended Asia's balance of power as we seem to be moving from an equilibrium to disequilibrium. Here, I must make it clear that there is lack of unanimity as to what actual jurisdiction of Indo-Pacific is. But as a geostrategic construct, it has gained substantial ground in recent years as part of the global discourse, much to the consternation of China. China, friends, is not comfortable at all with the advancement of this dictum called Indo-Pacific, as it fears undermining of its power and influence in the region. Trump administration's strong stand against Chinese assertions, intensification of politico-economic tussle between the United States and China, India's growing engagement with ASEAN countries, and India's evolving strategic partnership with Japan, mounting international pressure on various issues, have made China's position somewhat vulnerable in this region. However, it is difficult to believe that China could be anyway convinced or pushed to cede the space or control in the region to any other player or claimant. So we cannot expect China to say, no, I do not want this space. So let US come and manage everything. No, this is not going to happen. This way China is expanding its power, influence, and territory, and has in a way consolidated its control over the South China Sea. Many experts apprehend that it could be very well the initiator of a prolonged global conflict, and the theater of this conflict would be Indo-Pacific. So the worsening security scenario in Indo-Pacific is a litmus test for the United States, because United States is presented with an opportunity either to re-establish its preeminence vis-a-vis China, because the friends and allies are expecting United States to play a more proactive role in the region, to counter the growing assertions by China, or to counter Chinese moves and protect their interest. And on the other hand, the member countries of ASEAN, who are reluctant to challenge China, both militarily or financially. They do not want to take any open stand against China. They look towards the US to revitalize its engagement with the region and revive the security ties to put China at bay. Along with the United States, another important player, that is India, which is also expected to play a major role in the region to counterbalance China's growing influence. So the turbulence and the rapidly evolving strategic equation in Indo-Pacific presents both opportunities and challenges for India as it seeks greater economic and strategic engagement with countries of Southeast Asia and Pacific Rim. I have adjusted 10 minutes, just 3 minutes more, then I'll just flag out certain options and opportunities for India. If you see that India, that had remained mostly flaccid or mostly a marginal or passive player in Indian Ocean regions, no longer wants to remain a passive player. It now intends to become one of the principal actors in the region by aggressively pursuing its political, economic, and security interests vis-a-vis China. So what are the options? We can have a maritime policy and build maritime partnerships. So we need to initiate a strategic maritime policy in consultation with other resident states to protect maritime resources and interest. And also we need to augment our security capabilities in the Indian Ocean region. And let's not forget that the perpetrators of 26/11 attack came by sea. And here I flag one more important point, that Act East may very well evolve into a new policy paradigm called Act Indo-Pacific. So if you see that India of late has adopted a pragmatic strategy that entails active participation in the debate on South China Sea and revival of maritime linkages with countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam. So, and also Prime Minister Narendra Modi's call for open, inclusive, democratic, and transparent Indo-Pacific during the Shangri-La dialogue underline India's efforts to augment maritime connectivity with immediate and extended neighbors through initiatives like Sagarmala or Sagar. And so, what I emphasize is that Act East may very soon evolve into Act Indo-Pacific, signaling India's intent to play a major role in the region. So, and we also need to have greater engagement with extended neighborhood. We must build a strong, durable, long-term maritime partnerships with key players. And also, there is a need to strengthen the Quad and start a new strategic narrative. So if you see that if we start acting in consultation with other Quad members, other members of the Pacific who are equally perturbed or disturbed by China's growing influence and power, then there would emerge a new strategic narrative, a new strategic policy that would be beneficial for all the major stakeholders in the system. So India, Sagar, and America's free and open Indo-Pacific can merge to become a grand strategic narrative defining the political security order in Indo-Pacific, and which may usher in new opportunities for both India as well as other major players in the region. Thank you so very much for providing.
Thank you, Dr. Netaji. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. And thank you all.